The Galactic Council Chamber was the most beautiful place in the known universe. It floated in space, a massive station made of crystal and light. Hundreds of alien species had sent their best leaders here. They came to talk, to trade, and to laugh at those they thought were weak. Today, they were laughing at humans. Captain Park stood in the center of the Great Hall. He wore his military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. His face showed no emotion as the alien delegates pointed at him and made sounds of amusement. Behind him stood Ambassador, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had spent 20 years learning how to talk to aliens. None of that training had prepared her for this moment. The delegate spoke first. It was a tall creature, like an insect standing on two legs. Its body was covered in hard black shell, and its four arms moved constantly as it talked. When it laughed, its mandibles clicked together like breaking bones. "You want our help," they said. "You humans are funny, very funny." The delegate joined in. It was a snake-like being, long and silver, coiled around a floating platform. Its eyes were cold and yellow. "We have watched your species for many years. You still use metal bullets. You still burn fuel to move your ships. Your soldiers wear cloth and steel instead of energy fields. You are children playing with toys." Said nothing. He simply stood there, hands clasped behind his back. Stepped forward. "The Horde has destroyed 12 of our colonies in the past year. They are moving toward your space next. We ask only for—" They made a dismissive sound. "They are animals, mindless swarm creatures. If they come to our worlds, we will simply turn on our defense shields. Their primitive claws cannot touch us." "They said the same thing on 7, replied, her voice tight. "The colony had 50,000 people. Now it has none." "Then perhaps humans should build better shields," they said with a cold smile. "Oh wait, you cannot. Your technology is too simple." More laughter filled the chamber. The sound bounced off the crystal walls and seemed to grow louder. Representatives from dozens of species joined in. The beings of pure light flickered with amusement. The massive rock creatures rumbled with deep chuckles. Even the usually quiet, floating brains in glass jars pulsed with mockery. Finally moved. He took one step forward and the laughter slowly died down. Not because they respected him, but because they were curious what the primitive human would say. "I understand," said. His voice was quiet but clear. "We are not advanced enough for your help. Our weapons are old, our ships are slow, our methods are crude." Finally, the human admits the truth, the clicked. "But I have a question," continued. "How many wars has the Galactic Council fought in the last 1,000 years?" Silence fell over the chamber. The alien delegates looked at each other in confusion. "Wars," they repeated. "We do not fight wars, we are civilized. When there is conflict, we negotiate, we compromise. If an enemy is too strong, we surrender and pay tribute. There is no logic in fighting when you cannot win." Nodded slowly. "I see. And how many wars has humanity fought in our 10,000 years of civilization?" No one answered. "Over 15,000, said. "We have fought each other with sticks and stones, with swords and arrows, with guns and bombs and weapons that can split atoms. We have killed billions of our own kind. We have burned our own cities, poisoned our own lands, and driven ourselves to the edge of extinction more than once." The chamber was completely silent now. The aliens stared at the human captain with new expressions. Not respect, not yet, but perhaps the first hints of unease. "You think this makes us primitive," said, "and maybe you are right, but it also means something else. It means we know how to fight. It means we know how to survive when survival seems impossible. It means we have been practicing for this moment for a very long time." He turned to leave and followed. As they walked toward the exit, they called out, "Where are you going, human? Are you giving up so easily?" Paused at the door, he looked back over his shoulder. "No, I am going to save my people with or without your help, and when they come for your worlds, remember this day. Remember that you laughed." The doors closed behind them. In the corridor outside let out a long breath. Her hands were shaking with anger. They did not listen to a single word. They think we are insects, less than insects. Kept walking, his footsteps steady on the metal floor. They listened. They just did not believe. That is different. What do we do now? Asked. Now we go home, said. We prepare. The colony on Nu has sent a distress signal. They are coming. Stopped walking. Nu, that is where my sister lives, her family. We will get there in time, said. He finally showed some emotion, a small softness in his eyes. The is already on its way. They sent the eyes widened. The UEN was humanity's most powerful battleship, a monster of metal and fire that had been built for one purpose only. Allowed himself a small smile. The Council thinks we are primitive. They think our weapons are toys. They have never seen what human toys can do. Behind them, in the crystal chamber, the alien delegates had already returned to their business. They had forgotten the humans already. They were discussing trade routes and energy quotas and other important matters. They did not know that their universe was about to change forever. The sky above Nu was burning. 7 massive ships hung in the clouds like dark monsters, blocking out the sun. They had arrived 3 days ago, and they had brought death with them. Lieutenant Commander stood on top of a broken wall, looking at the battlefield below. Her uniform was torn and dirty. Her face was covered in dust and dried blood, some of it hers, most of it not. In her hand she held a rifle that was almost out of bullets. Around her, the remains of the colony told a story of desperate survival. Buildings had been turned into fortresses. Streets had become kill zones filled with traps and mines. Every window held a gun. Every shadow held a soldier. 400 Marines. That was all she had. 400 trained soldiers against millions of warrior drones. Commander, a young soldier ran up to her position. His name was Han, and he was only 19 years old. 3 days ago, he had been scared and unsure. Now his eyes were hard like stone. War had changed him quickly. "What is it, Private?" asked. "The eastern wall is falling. Sergeant Moon needs more people." Looked east. She could see the flashes of gunfire and the dark shapes of climbing over the barriers. There were so many of them. They were like ants, endless and hungry. "Tell him to hold for 10 more minutes. I am sending the reserve squad." "We have a reserve squad," looked surprised. Pointed at a group of civilians huddled behind a destroyed vehicle. They were farmers and shopkeepers, teachers and children. All of them held weapons now. "We do now." Nodded and ran off. Watched him go, wondering if he would survive the next hour, wondering if any of them would. They were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. They were not soldiers in the normal sense. They were drones, controlled by a hive mind that felt no fear and knew no mercy. Each one was the size of a large dog with 6 legs, sharp claws, and a mouth full of teeth. Alone, a single human could kill one. But they never came alone. They came in waves of thousands, crawling over the bodies of their dead to reach their prey. The Council species had always surrendered to the, "Why fight when you could not win? Better to give up your world and find another. Better to pay tribute than to die." Humans did not think this way. In the medical tent, Shin was working on her 47th patient of the day. She was the colony's only trained medic now. The others had died on the first day. Her hands moved fast, stitching wounds, injecting painkillers, making decisions about who could be saved and who could not. A soldier grabbed her arm. His leg was missing below the knee, torn off by a claw. "Doc, give me a gun. Put me back on the line." "You will die," said simply. "I will die anyway. Let me die useful." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she handed him a pistol and helped him sit up against a wall facing the eastern barrier. He smiled and checked the weapon. "Thank you, Doc." "Make them pay for it," she said, and moved on to the next patient. Near the center of the colony, Engineer was working on something terrible. The colony's fusion reactor was damaged but still running. With the right adjustments, he could turn it into a bomb big enough to destroy everything within 10 kilometers. Last Resort had told him, "If we cannot hold them, we take as many as we can with us." His hands were steady as he worked. He thought about his wife and daughter, who had escaped on the last transport ship before they arrived. He thought about the letter he had written them, just in case. His communicator crackled. "How is it going?" "Almost ready, Commander. 15 minutes. "Good. Hopefully we will not need it." Hopefully agreed, but he kept working. On the front lines, Sergeant Major Moon was showing what human rage looked like. His gun had run out of bullets an hour ago. Now he was fighting with a metal pipe he had pulled from a broken building. A leaped at him. He smashed it aside. Another came from his left. He kicked it into the wall. A third one bit his arm. He grabbed it by the neck and threw it into 4 more that were climbing over the barrier. "Come on," he screamed at the swarm. "Is that all you have? My grandmother hits harder than you." The soldiers around him found new strength from his madness. They fought harder, screamed louder, and refused to fall. They had never seen anything like this. Their other conquests had broken long before now. These humans were broken in every way that mattered, yet they kept fighting. 3 days. They had held for 3 days. Knew it could not last much longer. Ammunition was almost gone. Half her soldiers were wounded. The walls were crumbling. By tomorrow morning they would overrun them. She looked up at the sky at the 7 dark ships that blocked out the stars. No help was coming. The Council had refused. Earth was too far away. They were alone. Then her communicator crackled with static. A voice came through, broken but clear. "New, this is UEN, hold position. We are inbound." Froze. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she grabbed the communicator with both hands. "This is New. What is your position?" 12 hours out. Tell your people, help is coming." 12 hours. They had to survive for 12 more hours. Laughed. It was a tired, broken sound, but it was real. She switched to the general channel so everyone could hear. "All units, this is Commander. The cavalry is coming. They will be here in 12 hours. We just need to hold a little longer. Can you do that for me?" The response came from every corner of the colony. Cheers, screams, gunfire. The defenders of New heard the news and found strength they did not know they had. 12 hours. They could do 12 hours. On the eastern wall, Sergeant Moon heard the message. He grinned, blood running down his face, and turned back to the enemy. "You hear that, you ugly bugs? Our big brother is coming, and he is going to be very, very angry." The fleet commander floated in the center of its ship, connected to 1,000 other mines through the Hive network. For 3 days, it had watched its drones attack the human colony below. For 3 days, the humans had refused to die. This was strange. This was wrong. The other species always surrendered by now. They had lasted 4 hours. They had not even fought at all. But these humans, these weak and primitive creatures, continued to resist. No matter, they would break eventually. They always did. Then the sensors screamed a warning. Something was coming, something big. The fleet commander turned its attention to the approaching object. One ship. A single ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The commander felt something close to amusement. 1 ship against 7. The humans were even more foolish than it thought. The ship came into view, and the amusement died. The UEN was not beautiful. It was not elegant or graceful or any of the things that civilized species built into their vessels. It was 3 kilometers of pure, ugly, brutal purpose. Its hull was thick and dark, covered in armor plates that overlapped like the scales of some ancient beast. Gun turrets dotted its surface like metal teeth. Missile pods lined its sides in rows of deadly promise. This was not a ship designed for exploration or trade or diplomacy. This was a ship designed for one thing only: destruction. On the bridge of the captain stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He was a man of 50 years, with gray hair and a face that showed no fear. Around him, his crew of 4,200 worked in perfect silence. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Captain," said weapons officer, "I have firing solutions on all 7 enemy vessels." "Hold fire," replied calmly. "Sir, they are charging weapons. Energy beams, very powerful." "I know, let them shoot first." Communications officer looked up from his station. "Sir, they are hailing us, they are," laughing. "They say we should turn around and run. They say one small ship cannot defeat their fleet." Small allowed himself a tiny smile. "They think we are small. They have never seen a human battleship before, sir." "Then let us introduce ourselves," pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, this is the captain, battle stations, we are going in." The surged forward, its massive engines pushing it toward the enemy fleet. On the flagship, the commander ordered all ships to open fire. 7 beams of pure energy lanced across space, hitting the human vessel at the same moment. The attack was devastating. Any council ship would have been torn apart instantly. Energy shields would have collapsed in microseconds. The vessel would have become dust and memory. The shuddered, its outer armor glowed red, then white. Sections of plating melted and fell away. But the ship kept coming. The fleet commander felt something it had never felt before: confusion, fear. The beams were still hitting the human ship. Why was it not dead? Why was it still moving? "Sir," reported, "outer armor layer is gone. Inner layer holding at 70%. Nodded as expected, return fire." The main guns were called. They did not use energy or lasers or any of the advanced weapons that civilized species preferred. They used magnets to accelerate simple metal slugs to incredible speeds. Primitive, crude, and absolutely devastating. The first shot hit the flagship dead center. The slug was traveling at 15% of light speed. It punched through the energy shields like they were not even there. It continued through the ship's hull, through its power core, and out the other side. The flagship exploded. Silence filled the hive mind. One shot had destroyed their command ship. Target 2 said, "Fire." Another slug, another explosion. Target 3. The remaining ships tried to scatter. They were fast, much faster than the human battleship, but they had not come alone. Fighter bays opened along the ship's hull, and hundreds of smaller craft poured into space. Commander No led the first squadron, her voice sharp over the radio. "All wings engage, do not let them run." The fighters were not elegant either. They were metal boxes with guns and engines, built to be cheap and easy to replace. But they were also built to be deadly. They swarmed around the ships like angry insects, firing missiles and bullets into every weak point they could find. One ship managed to get a clear shot at its fighter. The beam hit her wing, tearing it off. Her craft began to spin. "Commander," her wingman shouted, "eject, eject." "No," said through gritted teeth. She aimed her damaged fighter at the ship's main gun emplacement and pushed the engines to full power. "Tell my mother I love her." The explosion destroyed the gun and killed dozens of drones. The fleet commander watched in horror as its fleet was torn apart. This was not possible. Humans were primitive. Their weapons were toys. How were they doing this? "Commander," one of its drones reported, "2 ships remaining. Should we continue fighting?" The commander considered its options. The hive mind held millions of years of memory, millions of conquered worlds. In all that time, no species had ever fought like this. No species had ever chosen death over survival. "Retreat," the commander ordered. "All ships retreat. Report this to the hive. The humans are different." 2 surviving ships turned and fled into faster-than-light travel. They did not look back. On the bridge of reported the retreat. "Should we pursue, Captain?" Shook his head. No, let them go. Let them tell their masters what happened here today. He turned to the main screen, which showed the planet below. Smoke rose from the colony, but there were still life signs. The defenders of Nu had survived. Open a channel to the surface. Channel open, sir. Nu, this is Captain of the UEN. The enemy fleet has been destroyed. Repeat, the enemy fleet has been destroyed. You are safe now. For a long moment there was only static. Then a voice came through, tired and broken but alive. This is Commander, thank you, thank you. Smiled, thank yourselves, Commander. You held the line, we just finished the job. He ended the call and turned to his crew. Launch rescue shuttles. I want medical teams on the ground in 20 minutes. These people have earned our best. As the crew rushed to obey, looked out at the wreckage of the fleet. 5 ships destroyed, 2 fled. 1 human battleship against 7 enemy vessels. Not bad for a bunch of primitives. The rescue shuttles came down like angels from heaven. Commander watched them land, and for the first time in 3 days, she allowed herself to cry. Her soldiers were crying too. The tough Marines who had fought without sleep, without food, without hope, were now hugging each other and weeping like children. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. Medical teams poured out of the shuttles. They carried supplies, medicine, food, and water. They carried hope. Sergeant Major Moon sat against a broken wall, too tired to stand. A medic knelt beside him and started treating his wounds. There were many wounds. Deep cuts, broken bones, burn marks from energy weapons. The medic looked amazed that he was still alive. "How are you still conscious?" the medic asked. Moon laughed weakly. "Spite, pure spite." Across the colony, similar scenes played out. Private Han was finally able to put down his weapon. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely open them. He had been holding that gun for so long that his fingers had forgotten how to do anything else. Engineer carefully disconnected the fusion reactor from its bomb configuration. His hands were steady, even though his heart was racing. They had been 30 minutes away from using it. 30 minutes from turning the entire colony into a crater just to take the enemy with them. "That was close," said a rescue worker who was watching him. Nodded, "Too close." In the medical tent, Shin finally collapsed. She had been awake for 60 hours straight, treating wounds and saving lives. Now the real doctors were here and she could finally rest. She fell asleep on the floor and no one moved her. She had earned that sleep. But the battle was not completely over. On the surface of the planet, drones still remained. Millions of them had landed during the 3-day siege. With their fleet destroyed, they had lost connection to the hive mind. They were now acting on pure instinct, which meant they were even more dangerous. Captain ordered a ground assault. The Marines of the UEN were different from the defenders of Nu. The colonists had been fighting to survive, using whatever weapons they could find. The Marines were professional killers, equipped with the best gear humanity had ever created. They came down in heavy, armored vehicles that could survive anti-aircraft fire. They wore powered armor suits that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. They carried weapons that could cut through shells like paper. And they were angry, very angry. The leader of the ground assault was Major, a man with cold eyes and a colder heart. He had seen the footage of what they had done to human colonies. He had seen the bodies, the destruction, the suffering. He had been waiting for this moment. "All units," he said over the radio, "this is Major. Our orders are simple. Kill everything that is not human. No mercy. No hesitation. These creatures came to our world to eat our people. Today we return the favor." The Marines landed in perfect formation. They spread out across the landscape, moving in coordinated groups that covered each other with overlapping fields of fire. This was not desperate survival fighting. This was professional extermination. The drones tried to swarm them, as they had swarmed the colonists, but the Marines were ready. Heavy machine guns created walls of bullets that nothing could pass through. Flamethrowers turned entire groups of drones into burning husks. Grenades and missiles destroyed their hiding places. Private was 19 years old, just like Han, but while had learned to fight through necessity, had trained for years. She moved through the battlefield like a dancer, her rifle firing in precise bursts that dropped drones with every shot. "Contact left," her squad leader shouted. Turned and fired 3 rounds. 3 drones fell dead. "Clear," she reported. "Good shooting, move up." The advance continued. Hour by hour the Marines pushed the back. They cleared buildings, swept through tunnels, and hunted down every last drone hiding in the shadows. In orbit, Captain watched the operation through tactical displays. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt a grim satisfaction. They had chosen to attack humanity. They had chosen wrong. "Sir," Lieutenant reported, "we are receiving transmissions from multiple Council observation stations. They are watching everything." Nodded. "Good, let them watch." The Council species had always wondered why humans were so violent, why they built weapons when they could build tools, why they trained soldiers when they could train diplomats, why they planned for war when they could plan for peace. Now they were seeing the answer. Humanity was violent because the universe was violent. Humanity built weapons because weapons kept them alive. Humanity trained soldiers because somewhere out there, something was always trying to kill them. And humanity planned for war because war always came, whether they planned for it or not. The delegate, watching from a station millions of kilometers away, felt something cold in its stomach. The humans were not fighting with desperation anymore. They were fighting with joy. They were good at this. They enjoyed this. The representative coiled around its platform. It had called human weapons toys. Now those toys were tearing through drones like a hot knife through butter. What would those toys do to ships? By nightfall, the planet was secure. Millions of drones lay dead across the landscape. The surviving colonists came out of their shelters to see fields of alien bodies stretching to the horizon. Commander found Captain near the center of the colony, observing the cleanup operations. "Captain," she said, saluting weakly, "I want to thank you if you had arrived even an hour later." Shook his head. "Do not thank me, Commander. You and your people are the heroes here. You held when anyone else would have broken." "We had no choice. Surrender was not an option." "No," agreed. "For humans, surrender is never an option. That is what makes us different." He looked up at the sky, where the stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, 2 ships were running back to their masters. They were carrying a warning. "The humans are coming, and they do not know how to stop." "What happens now?" asked. "Now," smiled grimly, "now the universe learns to respect us, one way or another." 3 months had passed since the Battle of Nu. 3 months since a single human battleship had destroyed 5 hive ships and sent 2 more running in fear. 3 months since the universe had changed forever. The Galactic Council chamber was quiet now. The same crystal walls that had echoed with laughter 3 months ago now seemed cold and tense. The same alien delegates who had mocked humanity now sat in uncomfortable silence. Admiral stood where Captain Park had stood before. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Behind her, a holographic display showed images of the battle, burning ships, dead, human soldiers standing victorious over fields of alien corpses. "Thank you for inviting me to speak," began, her voice calm and steady. "I understand this is unusual. Last time a human stood in this chamber, you laughed at us. You called us primitive. You refused to help us." The delegate shifted nervously. Its mandibles clicked, but it did not speak. "I am not here to complain about that," continued. "I am here to explain something. Something you need to understand if you want to survive what is coming." She pressed a button, and the hologram changed. It showed the Horde, their territory spreading across a massive section of the galaxy like a dark stain. They have conquered 63 species in the past 10,000 years. 63 civilizations, most of them more advanced than ours. They had better shields, faster ships, more powerful weapons, but they all fell. Do you know why? No one answered. Because they surrendered, said. When the mathematics of war turned against them, they gave up. They calculated their chances, found them unacceptable, and chose survival over victory. This is logical. This is rational. This is what civilized species do. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity does not do this. The hologram changed again, showing scenes from human history. Wars, battles, last stands that should have been defeats but somehow turned into victories. For 10,000 years we have fought each other. We have killed billions of our own kind in conflicts over land, resources, religion, and simple pride. We have burned our own cities and poisoned our own planet. We have driven ourselves to the edge of extinction multiple times. The alien delegates watched in silence. Some looked disgusted. Some looked confused, but all of them were paying attention. You call this primitive, said. And you are right, it is primitive, it is wasteful, it is stupid. But it has also taught us something that none of you understand. She stepped forward, her eyes sweeping across the chamber. It has taught us that some things are worth dying for. It has taught us that surrender is not always the smart choice. It has taught us that sometimes, when all hope is gone and all logic says to give up, the only thing left to do is fight harder. The delegate finally spoke, its voice cold. Pretty words, but what do they mean in practice? Your colony barely survived. If your ship had arrived 1 hour later, they would all be dead. Yes, agreed. And if we had surrendered like you suggested, they would all be dead too, or worse, they would be slaves. We chose to fight and won. You would have chosen to surrender and lost. That is the difference. The difference, the said carefully, is that you got lucky. Smiled, it was not a friendly smile. Let me tell you about luck. 2 ships escaped our battle. They returned to their hive and reported what they saw. Do you know what happened next? She pressed another button. The hologram showed fleet movements. Their expansion suddenly stopped. The horde has not moved in 3 months. 63 species surrendered to them without a fight. We killed 5 of their ships with one of ours, and suddenly they are afraid to continue. They are rethinking their entire strategy because of one battle. The chamber was completely silent now. That is not luck, said. That is fear. We made them afraid, not with superior technology or greater numbers or logical arguments. We made them afraid by showing them that we would rather die than surrender. We made them afraid by proving that every world they attack will cost them dearly. We made them afraid by being exactly what you called us, primitive, violent, and utterly unwilling to stop fighting. She turned off the hologram and faced the delegates directly. The horde is coming for you next. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually they will come. Your shields will not save you. Your negotiations will not save you. Your willingness to surrender will definitely not save you. Clasped her hands behind her back, just as had done 3 months ago. But we can save you, not because we have better weapons, not because we are stronger or smarter or more advanced. We can save you because we know how to fight. We have been practicing for this our entire existence. She headed toward the exit, then stopped and looked back. Last time you laughed at us and sent us away. We saved ourselves anyway. This time you can laugh again and we will go home again. But when they come for your worlds, do not expect us to answer your calls for help. We remember who our friends are. The doors opened in front of her. Wait, the delegate stood up, its mandibles clicking rapidly. Wait, Admiral, we need to discuss this further. Paused, you have something to say. We may have been hasty in our previous judgment. Perhaps there is value in your methods that we did not see before. Perhaps, the delegate hissed at its colleague but continued speaking. Yes, Perhaps we should consider a formal alliance for mutual protection. Allowed herself a real smile this time. Then I suggest you put it in writing, and I suggest you do it quickly. The may have stopped moving, but they will not stay still forever. When they will come for all of us. She left the chamber without another word. In the corridor, Ambassador was waiting for her. The two women walked together toward the shuttle bay. They agreed, asked. They will, said. Fear is a powerful motivator. Better than logic, better than reason, better than anything else in the universe. Fear of us. Looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling, human soldiers were training, and human scientists were building new weapons. The universe had ignored them for so long. Now the universe had no choice but to pay attention. Do you think we can win this war? Asked. Thought about it for a long moment. She thought about the Battle of New. She thought about Commander and Sergeant Moon and all the others who had refused to give up. She thought about Captain and the crew of the. She thought about 10,000 years of human history, written in blood and fire and endless stubbornness. I do not know if we can win, she admitted. But I know one thing for certain. We will never, ever stop fighting. And eventually something has to break. I would rather it be them than us. On the bridge of the, still orbiting New, Captain read the message confirming the Council's request for alliance. He showed it to Commander, who had come aboard as a liaison officer. They finally asked for help, she said, shaking her head. 3 months ago they laughed at us. People change when they are scared, said. Species change too. What happens now? Looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that was finally learning to respect humanity. Now we show them how humans fight, and together we make the wish they had never left their home world. He smiled. The real war is just beginning.